Welcome to the Weekly Juice podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship. Whether this is your first time here or you're an avid listener, we're thrilled to have you as a part of our community. Our goal is to share stories of successful entrepreneurs and investors in the hopes that they assist you along your journey towards financial freedom. We discuss successes, failures, systems, motivations, experiences, tips and tricks, and key lessons learned over time. After each episode, you should feel motivated, empowered, and prepared to take action in your own life. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod, where we post daily content, personal finance tips, and document our own journey towards financial freedom.
Are you a real estate investor looking to streamline your business? Maybe you're tired of all the paperwork and multiple lines of communication with your tenants. Well, we have a solution for you. We're now personally using RentRedi to help manage all of our rental properties. This all-in-one property management software assists with rent collection, maintenance, tenant screening, credit reporting, communication, and much more. RentRedi provides benefit to both the landlord and the tenant due to all of the easy-to-use features that can be managed online or via the mobile app. They recently just launched a new feature with their partner REI Hub called Rental Property Accounting. This allows us to track our income, expenses, and cash flow all in one place rather than managing multiple spreadsheets. We're huge proponents of systematizing our business, as you know, to get more time back in our day, and RentRedi allows us to do just that. If you'd like to sign up, visit rentredi.com. That is rentredi.com, and make sure to use our code JUICEPOD for 50% off your RentRedi subscription.
Okay, welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, Ryan and Cory, except it's only Cory today. So that's a little treat for everybody. To this week, we have on an amazing guest, Naaman Taylor. He is at Naaman Taylor Investor on Instagram, and he's an active duty Army sergeant and a real estate investor who's built a portfolio of 25 units for himself, half of which he built when he was halfway across the world. He was stationed in Germany. So I don't know if there's many excuses that you can have listening to Naaman talk. He's also built a 7-figure, we'll call it a real estate investing business, because he either wholesales, he flips, he keeps properties for himself. He essentially has built the network and does what is called the reverse wholesale strategy, where he has a network really of investors that he understands their clear criteria to a T, and then goes and finds the exact perfect properties for them. And then he just has this pipeline that is built out while using services like PropStream, like REI Call Center, a call center that we've talked about on our podcast a couple episodes ago. So he has a system built out for him where he has a 7-figure real estate investing business. And he's 31 years old, by the way. He started this 2 years ago. So look, it's 2022, people. There are so many ways to make money, and Naaman is doing it in so many different ways. And he's trying to become a $100 million CEO at one point. When you listen to this episode, I mean, you will not have any doubt that he will get there. And I think you can too, if you really want to. So I think without further ado, we should bring in Naaman and get this episode going. Naaman, welcome to the Weekly Juice podcast. Thanks for taking the time today. We really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, glad to be here, man. Thanks for the invite, dude. I'm excited to share my story, and I got plenty of juice for everybody.
That's what it's all about, man. So if you could maybe give us a little background first and foremost, kind of who you are, where you're from, and then how real estate investing became a major part of your life.
Yeah, Naaman Taylor. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been a real estate investor for about 2 years. I'm an active duty service member, 13 years now. So that's why people call me the real estate soldier. I've been all around the world, from Germany to Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, a couple of different duty stations here in the States. And one of the things I learned early in my investing career is you do not have to live in the market that you invest in. I started this real estate investment journey when I was living in Germany, and I was investing in DFW, which was 5,000 miles away. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I joined the military when I was 18 years old. I've been doing it ever since. And I'm really excited to share my story about how to become a millionaire basically part-time.
That's it. I mean, one of your mottos is power of part-time, and we'll get into that a little bit further here. But I want to talk about how real estate like first became a part of your life and how it did, because you just said it so cavalierly, like, oh yeah, I'm stationed 5,000 miles away and started investing in real estate. For some people, doing both of those seems like an impossibility. So when did you even first learn about it? Was it something that your family did, or was it something that came to be at a later point in your life?
No, so as a service member, I earned the VA loan. So I was able to get into real estate at an early age. So at 23, I bought my first duplex. It was a new build in Harker Heights, which is close to Fort Hood. And I was house hacking. This was in 2013. I didn't, there wasn't a cool name for it then. There wasn't a strategy. I was just kind of looking for a place to live for cheap. So that's when I first got my first property, but there was no investor mindset. My investor mindset, I didn't adopt that until about 2020 during the middle of the pandemic. That's when I started, because everything slowed down for me. I was really just focused on being in the Army, doing the best I could there, get promoted, kind of the career path that's set in front of us there. And then when the pandemic hit, I had all this free time. So I started watching YouTube and educating myself on personal finance, like you guys push here, and real estate investing. The YouTube algorithm just happened to have some real estate investment videos that were popping up as I was watching personal finance videos. And I watched, hundreds of episodes of that stuff over the course of 3 months, probably starting in April of 2020. So I'm getting close to my 2-year mark in real estate here soon, when I started watching those videos. And I watched, a couple hundred episodes over the course of 3 months before I pulled the trigger on trying to start real estate investing.
That's awesome. And it's amazing what COVID was terrible for so many people. I don't mean to mitigate that in any way, but I think if you were able to, not get too sick, and it kind of made people think. And one of the things that it made us think is it's the reason why we started the podcast. So to reframe your mind about like, whoa, I'm doing this hustle every single day. I'm going through the motions. Like a year passes, 2 years passes, 5 year passes. And you're like, am I actually like getting anywhere? And to have COVID put this in your mind, to give you the time to do the research and all the analysis that's needed, it's pretty powerful. So that is awesome. You've only been doing this for 2 years, and we'll get into the fact that you have 25 units, but you're not just a buy and hold investor. You do wholesaling, flipping, wholetailing, and we'll talk about all of these things. But you mentioned something about the VA loan, and if you can just explain to people, obviously somebody like me, I'm not in the military, the Army, or the Navy. I don't have access to this, but if you could explain what the VA loan is and how that worked for you to allow you to get your first property.
Yeah, as a service member, basically the VA will back your loan through a bank, and you're entitled to it after, I think it's a year of service or whatever. You're entitled to that loan. And I was a young staff sergeant, so I had to find a place to live off base. So I got pre-approved through the bank using that loan. You have to put any money down. But the only caveat too is you have to live there for 1 year.
Got it.
But I lived in that property for 2 years, and the first place I bought was a brand new duplex, and it enabled me. That house, we sold it not that long ago. It enabled me to build incredible wealth over, half a decade or however long we owned it, for no money. I was able to get in there. Remember, the mortgage on the place was $1,300. I could charge $1,000 for one side. And then I had a roommate too. Like I was really trying to capitalize on.
You were making money while you lived there, literally.
Yeah, exactly. And then we ended up, selling that place last year, and netting over 6 figures on it, on a house that I paid $0 for, just lived in for a couple of years. And I rented it out. I rented it out too for, 5 years after I moved out, and cash flowed about $600 a month for half a decade. Wow. With no investor mindset. Just like it's a place that I own.
You just realized for yourself that it was like a personal cash flow situation. Even if it wasn't like a business decision, you were like, well, I'm saving at least $1,000 minimum. That's without utilities and anything. $1,500 a month that went back to your own personal bottom line. So you're able to turn this up a notch. And that's kind of what I want to get into here. So what did you do next? I know that you mentioned that you have 25 units total now. What was your next step, and kind of the stage between having one property and not really knowing, then the learning phase, and then making this more of a sustainable growing business?
Yeah. So I bought that first place in 2013. And then I moved out of there and I used my vehicle the second time. And I bought a single family house, like a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath as a single guy at the time. And I was just renting the rooms out to my friends. So I was house hacking again. No investor mindset, just trying not to pay anything for my mortgage. I didn't want to pay anybody. I've never paid anybody rent, never wanted to. So I just used my vehicle again. And then I ended up deploying to Iraq. And I had to rent out all these, my duplex and my house at the time. And that was, still no investor mindset. These were just places that I lived. So I was just looking for someone to cover the bill there. And then I PCS'd after my deployment to Germany. And I wasn't doing real estate for years at that point. A couple of years had gone by. I still didn't consider myself like a real estate investor. I just had a couple of units that I had bought that I lived in that I was now renting out. And there was no idea of scale. There was no idea of, I'm trying to get cash flow. That wasn't the idea. These were just places that I owned, that I had lived in, that I was now renting. So the mindset wasn't even there until the pandemic kind of happened.
Got it. Okay, great. And then, so once the pandemic happened and you really you started to focus in on building this and growing it, you grew it significantly in a 2-year time frame. I mean, what were the strategies that you used, and how did you specifically go about taking this thing from the 2 properties or the 3 units that you had to the 25 and the wholesaling business and everything that you got started in?
Yeah, so I started out burning houses. That was my first way that I got into investing. I watched a bunch of episodes on real estate investing, and I was like, I can do this burst strategy. I think I can do it. Even though I lived in Germany, I was like, I can use a system and a process. I had watched hundreds of episodes. So I knew the lingo. I was very educated on it. I was like, why can't I just do that from here? Right. And I remember I reached out to a guy who I had listened to his podcast before. And I asked him, hey, do you offer any mentorship or anything? First person I ever asked him, he was like, yeah, $100 an hour. And I remember at the time I was thinking, like, no freaking way can I pay this guy $100 an hour. But that dude changed my life. I did it. We did like 5 or 6 hours together. He tapped me into his network in Dallas, Fort Worth, where I was trying to invest. And I started the journey of the burst strategy. I bought a house from a wholesaler. I didn't even know what wholesaling was at the time. I just knew the guy was selling a crappy house. I bought it. I used the contractor that my mentor had recommended. I borrowed some money. I borrowed like 10 grand from my father-in-law. We had about 20 or 30 grand at the time saved up. And I just used almost all of that to get this first deal. And I used some hard money from a place in DFW to get the rest of the funding.
This is a story of resourcefulness here, Naaman, and I want to mention a couple things about it. So, we've mentioned this on previous episodes, but when you're growing up and you're playing baseball or you're playing football or you're playing basketball or you want to learn the piano or the drums, one of the things that you do is that you join a team or you hire a coach or you find a coach in some sort of way. And for some reason, in the biggest game that we have, really, which is trying to build a life for yourself, we shy away from hiring a coach or wanting to hire a mentor, have somebody help you. And yes, that costs money because it's all about somebody's time. So the decision that you made to spend $100 an hour was super scary because you felt like you didn't have it to spend. But then once you did, I bet you're looking back thinking it was the best decision that you ever made. I mean, am I wrong about that?
Dude, it was not only the best, the cheapest mentorship I'll ever have.
Right. That's cheap. Exactly. You're right.
I could, at the time, I was just being in the Army. I thought that was a lot of money. Now, I'm probably going to spend 6 figures on mentorship this year on, trying to scale and compress time and grow. Not trying to spend any more time trying to figure it out. Right. So, another one of my messages is you got to pay to play. If you want to spend 5 years to learn something that you can pay someone to learn in 1 year, that means time is not that important to you. You'll make more money. You cannot make more time.
Absolutely. We only have a finite amount of it, and nobody knows how much we have. So especially somebody like you who's, and I want to thank you for your service, who puts their life on the line every day and being in the Army. So you knowing how much time you have, it's the most important thing you have. So I want to talk about how you managed building this while you were in the Army. Did you have some sort of system built out? Obviously, once you got started, and maybe not in the beginning, did you have some sort of system, or how did you manage to build this while managing the Army position that you have?
Yeah, when I was in Germany, there's kind of two parts to this. When I was in Germany is one part, and then when I got back to the States here in Oklahoma is the second part. But while I was over there, the time difference really helped. They're plus 7 hours. So around 4 p.m., work's kind of ending. You guys are just waking up in the United States. So guess what I get to do? I get to work from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. with everybody else. So I was just working like a dog for 6-7 months that I was, doing this in Germany. I loved it because I was able to do so much more. So that's how I was able to manage it over there. Over here, it's a little different. It's a lot of scheduling. It's a lot of managing time. It's a lot of prioritizing. So doing, things that are important, but it can be done. We're building a 6-figure, well, we've already built a 6-figure, going on 7-figure wholesaling business part-time while I'm in the Army. It's very possible to do. But when I was in Germany, we were just doing, I think we did like 6 burrs from there. And I was able to do that because of the time difference.
That's incredible. And I want to mention, you mentioned part-time, and one of your biggest mottos is the power of part-time. So you were actually working double time over there, but you're telling me now that you're able to build a 7-figure wholesaling business, which we'll talk about the details of, but part-time. So what is the power of part-time to you, and how have you been able to do this or focus on being part-time?
Yeah, my first goal, right, was to make as much money part-time as I was making in my full-time job. So as a staff sergeant in the Army, we make about $50,000. Wasn't that hard to do. It was kind of easy to make 50 grand wholesaling and house flipping. We might have done like 2 deals and make that much money in 1 quarter. So I was able to do that really fast. And I was like, whoa, okay, now what's my next goal? Is to make twice as much part-time as I'm making at my full-time job. But what that took now was learning more sales, understanding systems, creating, operating procedures. And we're still working on all that stuff. Like,
of course you are. Yep.
Man, you're trying to build something part-time while also executing scale. You give up a lot in other areas. But we've been able to, definitely double and triple what I make full-time in the Army, part-time in our business, with maybe 3 to 4 hours a day, and outsourcing some of the work. So people that have full-time jobs, this can be done. I put about 3 hours a day into my wholesaling business because I put systems in place, I hire out positions, and I prioritize things that are important to me.
Amazing. So let's talk about your wholesaling business here. You mentioned that it's going on a 7-figure wholesaling business, if it's not already. Do you have a specific niche, an area, a price range, a neighborhood class, asset, like that type of thing that you're looking for specifically? I think maybe if you could talk about details of your wholesaling business and how this works for you to be able to generate the amount of money that it does.
Yeah, we're actually a reverse wholesaling business. And this is one of the things that I like to touch on, is because I don't have time to sit in the seat all day and work on this. So what I do is I go find the buyers first, and I determine what it is that they want. And instead of just going out and throwing lines into the water, hoping something bites, I go hunting for deals, exact criteria of people that already want to buy houses. So when I find something that fits their exact criteria, I know it's sold before the ink's dry on the paper. The deal is done because I know exactly what it is my buyer wants, and I don't waste a ton of time trying to figure out who's going to buy the deal. I sell my houses to the same 5 or 6 dudes. I'm not blasting out, this deal to 100 people who will give me the best number, because I don't have time for that, and I don't have time to waste. So I have a very systematic approach to how we do wholesaling, and it's reverse wholesaling right now.
Got it. This makes perfect sense. I don't know how many people have talked about the term reverse wholesaling on our podcast before. How did you create the relationships with the end buyers? And I imagine these buyers are investors that are buying for long-term buy and hold, or I guess sometimes they're probably flipping too, especially if you're wholesaling it. But like, who are these people? And was it your mentor that helped you reach them?
This was not the same mentor. It was complete. That person did not even wholesale. They bought from wholesalers. They were burr specialists, right? So in the wholesaling game, I hired a completely different business coach. And that's who gets the credit for teaching me this process. And they are not cheap, but I don't have time to waste, period. So we spend the money, we learn the systems and processes so that we can compress time and not waste it. The motto is the time is now. I mean, I wear that, we cannot sit here and waste time, right? So we pay to learn the systems and processes. And what that looks like is we send direct mail to our buyers. And it's expensive and not everybody loves doing it this way. But what happens is we get people inbound that are saying, hey, help me buy more houses. And we get their exact criteria. We don't send them everything. We don't, waste time with low-level conversations with people that are trying to buy 1 or 2 houses a year. Hey, you're buying 50 or more, you get to get on my list. And we're going to talk about what it is exactly that you need so we don't waste each other's time. Because like you said, I'm doing this part-time. I don't have, a ton of time to put towards trying to figure out what your needs exactly all the time. Like, tell me what it is you need and I'll send that to you. Don't, if it's not exactly that, I'm not going to waste your time either. So I know it's important.
Now, what's amazing about this is that you're talking about how expensive it is to hire a business coach. But if you're 10xing a return on an investment, and I'm just giving you an example, I don't even know how much it costs, but if you're 10xing a return, like, would you spend $100,000 a year if you knew that you were going to make $1 million? And the answer, unless you don't understand the business fundamentals, is yeah. So why wouldn't you do that? And I think one of the questions that maybe our audience has that I know I have after asking and hearing about the wholesaling business is, are you going to whatever market these investors are in to try to find these homes, or is it still like a unique subset of markets that you target for these specific investors?
Well, also, so like I said before, I don't just wholesale. So we'll take down a property and relist it on MLS. We'll flip a house and we'll keep them as rentals, because at the end of the day, we still need cash flow. I'm not a deal chaser. So I need, I'm not trying to be sitting here hustling all the time in this seat. I'm trying to own a business and be the CEO. So we don't just wholesale deals. I'll take a systematic approach and look at the best exit strategy for each property. And if that's, flip, then we'll flip it. If that's a buy and hold, then we'll buy and hold it. So we look at certain markets that aren't super saturated that we think have growth. And that's where we wholesale at. They're smaller metropolitan cities like Oklahoma City, Memphis, Little Rock. A lot of my deals 2 years ago were in Dallas, with that place is crazy now. No one wants to sell you homes. You got to really fight for them. Price points are really high, but the payoff's a little bit better. So it kind of depends on your strategy. Right now, I'm looking for houses that I can do all of those extra strategies with and pick up rentals at the same time.
Got it. And then whatever exit strategy works for whether it's the right fit for the right person, the right investors, that makes sense. So let's talk about maybe a specific deal if you have one in mind. I don't know if you want to do multiple here or if you want to talk about a buy and hold. I'll let you decide. If you can give us some details on specific numbers of maybe like a deal that either took you to the next level or just one that's of note. You can talk about kind of the type of property, the purchase price, either what you wholesale for, what you rent it out for, renovation. If you could just give me some details, and I'll kind of ask some questions along the way to frame it.
I kind of brought this up earlier before we jumped on here, and I had thought about it for 2 minutes, like what deal I wanted to tell you. I kind of shared the VA loan one already, so I'll share the one that I'm in right now.
Okay, great.
And this has a couple different. I think a lot of people can benefit from hearing about this property instead of me sharing like, oh, this is my best wholesale deal or this is my best flip. And I think this is the one. So this is a triplex actually that I live in here in Lawton, Oklahoma, because I didn't really when I bought this, I didn't plan on owning houses here long term. So I bought something that I could fix up, right? And I bought this house. It was a foreclosure. I bought it off of an app called HomePath, right? So people get a kick out of that. I bought this house off of an app. There's an app called HomePath. It's a foreclosure app. And I purchased this property from there for, I think it was like $60,000. And it's 3 units.
Can I stop you real quick? When you say you purchased a home off an app, are you literally going through the process of the buying through the online port? Like, is this an online purchase, or did you still have to go through all of the, like, did you just buy it in cash through this thing? Or how did that work?
I wish I still had to close in person. Well, only because I was local anyway, but the initial offer was made through the app.
Very cool.
And then my offer was reviewed from the offer I put in through the app. Now my offer was accepted through the app, but then the rest of it kind of happened like every other real estate transaction.
Got it. Okay, cool.
That's just how they advertise this property. So I bought it for 60, and I was still living in Germany. This is I was like, I'm going to live in that place for a year because I bought it, and all the investors here wanted this property. But because I was going to owner occupy, that's who they wanted to sell it to, someone that was actually going to live there. So I was like, I'm just going to live there for a year and get out of it, right? And it's been about a year now that I've been here. But I kind of like it. I don't want to buy another house here, so I'm just going to stay here for a little bit longer. But I ended up getting this property because I was going to owner occupy. And we ended up putting about 30,000 into this, about 10,000 a unit to fix it up. Didn't have any floors, the bathrooms were dated, everything was all dated, beat up. And we put the 30 into it to fix it, and then it appraised at 160. So we ended up making, straight off 70,000 off of that. But what I did was I pulled a line of credit on this property instead of a BRRRR. I had done like 10 BRRRRs at this point, but I was like, I'm not going to BRRRR this one. I'm going to pull a line of credit on it because it's 3 units. I'm living there. I can use this to invest in whatever I want. Right. So I ended up getting a working capital line of credit, which means the bank gave me 85% of the ARV. So they gave me about 140 grand to kind of work with at 4.25%. So I can borrow.
I'm going to let you continue, but I just want to just frame this for people just so that they understand what happened here. So you bought it for $60,000. You put 30,000 into it. So you're all in for $90,000 in the property. It appraises for 160 grand. So that's where your $70,000 between 160 and 90,000 is. That's the spread. So you have equity. And then now you're telling me that the bank allowed you to pull 100 up to 140. Obviously you draw it as you wish, but now you have access to $140,000. How much money? So you bought it in cash. Did you buy it for 60 and put the 90 in? So you were actually out of pocket all in for 90?
Yep.
Okay. Got it. Very cool. So now that you had the 140, I guess this is a very recent thing. So have you done anything with that 140, or is that like your next play? Like what happened?
I flip houses with this. I buy houses and resell them on the market. I have a rental car business. We buy cars with them sometimes and refinance them through bank. I use this money to be liquid and do whatever I want. And we borrow it at such a cheap percent.
So this is really interesting, Naaman, and I think that you've reached what, I don't know what the stage is that you want to call it, but it's like this, you becoming your own bank sort of phase of real estate investing. And Ryan and I are like, we're not at the level that you're at, but we have hit this phase where, we don't really want to start spending our own liquid capital for purchasing properties. And when I say our own liquid capital, I mean, it is our money, but I mean like the money that we make during working our W-2 jobs. We don't want to save up $50,000, put it into a property, save it up, drain our bank account. And it's like this never ending cycle because we're not living off of the money that we make from our properties anyway. So we did similar to what you did, is on our primary residence, taking out a home equity line of credit. And we talked about it 2 episodes ago on episode 100. So now anytime that we see a cash flowing asset that we want to purchase, we can purchase it from the home equity line of credit at a 3.2% interest rate. If we're buying properties at less than a 3.2% interest rate, then we're doing something wrong, right? So now we are making money, paying off our loan, and then we can go back and use it again. And I assume that's kind of the play there for you, is if you use, let's say you used all 140,000, you can then replenish it with the cash flow. And then maybe your property appraises for more and you have more access to it. So it's like, it's a cheat code almost, but just, you have to start to buy properties to get to that level.
Dude, here's the best part. I live here for free and I rent the other 2 units out for $800. So like, you know,
you've really chopped your expenses all the way down. So it's not like you have this lavish lifestyle. Although I'm sure that, you know, you're almost at a point where you could if you really wanted to. So it's that's awesome. It's really, really cool.
Oh no. See, I've kept lifestyle down because I want the exponential growth. I want to freaking explode one day. And I want to go from millionaire to 10 million to 50 million, not 1 to 2 to 2.5 to 3. It's slow. It's too slow. And also using my own money is too slow. I've borrowed, you know, probably millions of dollars at this point to do deals. And if you're just using your own money, that's another thing I like to tell people is you don't need any money to do this. People have tons of money. You don't need any money. I do deals now, my hotel deals, because I'm all about relationships. So people have money, I'll do a deal with you. And I'll make less money just so we can form a relationship, make money, because I know next time I'm going to borrow it cheaper.
So Naaman, give me an example of that, of like a wholesale deal that you would use somebody else's money for, because I think that the way that people understand wholetailing or wholesaling is that, you know, you purchase a property, whether you purchase it actually or not is the difference between wholetailing and wholesaling, but then you assign it to somebody else and then you make that 5 or 10,000 or 15 or 20 or whatever it is, the spread between what you bought it for and what you're able to sell it to somebody else for. So how would you do that using somebody else's money? Give me an example.
Yeah, we bought a house in Oklahoma City, for instance, for 50 grand. And I'll use someone else's money and give them a percentage profit of that sale. So what happens is, like, we sell, like I told earlier, we sell our houses to the same 5 or 6 dudes. Well, when they don't want to buy it, I'll just buy it myself, or I'll use Cory's money to buy it. And then we'll split the profit on that house. Because what happens is, instead of those same 5 or 6 dudes looking at the property, now the entire MLS is looking at the property. And you'll probably get more money that way. But what happens is I got to borrow Cory's money to buy it, take it down, might take 2 months to close, but we're probably going to get paid more. So people are willing to wait a little longer to get paid, you know, on a return for buying a property, doing no repairs, and just listing it with an agent. It's an excellent way to make money, very passive. And we offer that to everybody, mainly the people that are in my micro tribe and rat race, but if people are interested in doing those sorts of deals, I'm always welcome.
Love it. Love it. So how do you determine what the best exit strategy for one of these properties is? I don't know if you want to get specific with examples, but like let's say you buy a property for $200,000 and how do you know, and that was just a random number there, but like, how do you know whether or not it's the right deal to flip, it's the right deal to wholesale, or keep for yourself in your own portfolio? Because to me, what I've learned is that although you're generating a lot of income, you do have a job with wholesaling, right? And flipping. Like, it is something that takes up your time. With rentals, for us, the way we look at it is like, it's long-term and it can be more passive and build longer-term wealth if you hold on for a long time. So how do you determine what the specific exit strategy should be on your end?
This is why I tell everybody to just get into wholesaling. Because my core business is wholesaling, right? But my exit strategy is a number of things. So first thing I do, we get a lead, we close the lead at a certain percentage. Usually we try to get it half off, 50%. So now I look at how much money can I make on a wholesale, how much money can I make on a hotel, flip, or keep as a rental, or keep and pull a line of credit, right? So I look at all of these. Now you can go with the fast nickel or slow dime approach, right? Am I going to make 10 grand in 10 days? Can I make 30 grand in 60 days? Can I keep this thing and get infinite cash return? Should I pull a line of credit because we have so much equity? So I look at all of those and I look and say, do I want to own this property? Because like right now, the reason that we only have 25 units is because we've transitioned from 40s and 50 built houses to 80s and 90s. We're selling 40s and 50s and moving into much newer stuff. So like if I would have kept all my houses, I would have 40. But like, we don't want all those old houses anymore. They're going to be 100 years old, 10 years.
So the mitigation of risk based on owning newer properties is what you want to do because you want to have less overhead and less work to do on them, right?
Correct. So I'll look at all these exit strategies and determine if we were to wholesale this, how much could we make? And if we can make a big wholesale fee, then I will wholesale it. If it's only a little wholesale fee and it's a big wholesale fee, then I'll wholesale it, right? And then if the numbers don't work and my guys don't want it, we don't really have a big market for the wholesale, we'll flip it ourselves if the numbers make sense. All right. And then if we end up flipping it and get really high ARV, I will burn it and keep it. Right. But I'm not just analyzing the deals as like I'm a wholesaler. I'm just going to get my quick 10,000 and move on. That's not who I want to be. I'm a real estate investor, first thing, and I own a wholesale business. I'm not a wholesaler. I don't label myself as that. I'm a real estate investor because we do all of these extra strategies. Now, I could have flipped all these properties that we kept. I could have wholesaled all the properties that we have, right? But I've determined that I want to know how to do all this. Not a one-trick pony, and I want to be able to help other people learn how to do all this stuff.
I love it, man. So if you're how are you marketing or finding these properties? Is it something that you're using like a prop stream service? Are you using like a call center? Like we've met with Anton, we had him on our show, the REI call center, which is, I know he's a part of the Rat Race to 5 mastermind, which we'll talk about. How are you finding the deals? Like what, I know you have the relationship with the end user, the end buyer, which is awesome, but how do you go about finding these deals for either yourself or for them?
It's funny you said that. That's exactly what I do. Anton's texting me right now, trying to probably figure out some sort of deal.
He's great.
Yeah. So I use PropStream, a full list. I use REI call center to filter through that list. And then me, certified closer, real estate soldier, I get on the phone and lock up the deals. That's exactly our process. It's not that difficult of a process. We teach it in our micro tribe. We talk about it all the time on our Instagram. This is the process that's going to help us, make 6-7 figures this year.
Love it. Okay. So let's say you're speaking to somebody who's like, they're ready to run through the brick wall, the proverbial one that I'm ready to run through and get into wholesaling, which I've never done. What is the best way to get started? Is it to join a mastermind? Is it to learn first? Like what would you do? Let's say if you were just starting out, because what you would do back in 2013 is probably different than what you would do right now if you were just starting out. I imagine the market had shifted. It has shifted. So what would you do if you were just starting out and you were telling somebody who wants to get involved?
Well, it depends on if you have any money or not, right? So if you have money, hire a coach, compress the time. Don't try to learn all the lessons yourself. It's the education is right there. And there's so many people that are willing to take your money to show you how to do it. There's too many people. All right. You can literally go on Instagram, hashtag wholesale. You are now a target in somebody's sales funnel. Like it's too easy to figure out how to do this at a really fast pace. If you don't have any money, this is why my micro tribe exists. We are a very low freaking point of entry to get into wholesaling. It's like $100. No one else offers anything close to this. So today at 6, which is Tuesday, my friend Sterling is coming on. So everybody listens to this. Join tomorrow and listen to this. He's going to show us today how to wholesale with little to no budget, because it's very possible. You can drive for dollars. There's free ways to get phone numbers. There's ways to get houses. I mean, there's ways to do this with no money. There's ways to do this with a lot of money. It depends on how much you have, what your dream is on this, right? If you want to make a lot of money from this is a side hustle for you to make an extra couple $1,000s a month. Like it's up to you, but join a mastermind or listen to podcasts like this one that people talk about wholesaling.
Great. So let's talk about the micro tribe. I know that you mentioned it, but people are probably like, what is this exactly? And what do you get? If you join the mastermind thing is amazing. I mean, you are, I think, the 4th or 5th person that we have interviewed from Rat Race to 5, just from organically networking. Felipe and Diego, obviously, and then Karina Mejia and Anton have all been on our show, and they all have mentioned that they're like the network and the connections that they've made through this mastermind specifically. There are others out there, obviously, have it's just elevated their game. It's just taken it completely to the next level. So talk to me a little bit about what the micro tribe is and like what it offers, and how do you know if this tribe specifically is the right one for you or whoever's listening?
Yeah, and sorry for the shameless plug earlier.
That's what it's all about. Yeah, we want to hear.
Dude, so I've spent so much money learning how to do this. It's funny, you threw the number out there, $100,000, right, for a business coach. That's how much my business coach costs.
I just had a feeling. I don't know why. I just had a feeling.
And that's not the end of it, right? There's other masterminds that I'm in, right? That I learned how to compress time in. And I bring all that right back to my group for $100 a month. So it's like when people don't join, I almost feel bad for them. But I truly believe in this product and what I'm teaching and helping people create, especially at our price point. Basically, everything in real estate starts at $1,000, except for these things, $100. But what the call is all about is learning how to wholesale, how to scale a business, how to do it part-time. And then the other half, which I think is not taught enough in this industry, is the sales training, how to overcome seller objections. We bring on the best wholesalers in the nation. I know my friend RJ Bates comes on quarterly. He won the Closers Olympics. He's the best closer in the country. And he comes on quarterly to literally listen to us call live leads and give us feedback on how we did. So when you join, you automatically get sales training. People pay thousands of dollars for from top closers in the country. And then we got guys like my friend Sterling, who's going to come on and show you how to do it for damn near free. It's like the level of people that come on this call, if you were to try to talk to them individually, it would cost you tens of thousands of dollars to talk to them. And they come on my call for free because they want to get back and help.
Okay. I'm stuttering here because I'm thinking to myself, $100 a month. That is 2 lunches, a Netflix subscription, and Amazon Prime. Boom, right there. Like that is absolutely, I don't mean to mitigate it, but it's really nothing if you're talking to people who are doing exactly what you want to do. And that is a beautiful thing about living in 2022 is that everything is at your fingertips. So if you are listening to this, and it doesn't matter if it's a shameless plug or not. I mean, it's right here in front of us. Like to be able to join this for $100 a month you're getting you do one wholesaling deal. And I bet a small, let's call it a small to medium wholesale deal, which is like $5,000 to $10,000. You've just paid for this for
years,
50 years. I don't know, like it literally. So, that's amazing. I think it's really important to mention just how much networking
Here's the other,
is. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the other crazy part too, Cory, is like, I give the people in my group, because they've paid to be in this room. I give them the exact criteria of what it is that my buyers are looking for and give them the opportunity to find deals in the same market that I'm in. Because like, hey, if you're doing this part-time and dispositions is where, you sell the property to somebody, this is a lot for you. We'll take care of that. Like it's done. We'll take care of that whole part. All you gotta do is go find a house in this area. And I need 500 of them, by the way. Like go find them. And it takes away half the battle of trying to have a wholesale business. And we're doing these every month with people in our group. So people are definitely, paying for 5 years of this off of one deal with us.
Absolutely. So Naaman, what are your 25 units that you hold on to, that you have as buy and hold? You're doing 7 figures in whether it's wholesaling, flipping, just your entire business. What are your future goals with this business? What do you want to get to? I don't know, 3 to 5 years, 10 years down the line, whatever you have crystally clear. What do you want to get to, just so you can frame this out for people who are saying, oh, okay, he's done this essentially in 2 or 3 years, because you had a couple properties prior to that, but like the last 2 or 3, you really turned it up a notch. For me, it's a lot better than trying to try 2, right? 2 years to try to climb this non-existent corporate ladder to the heavens that don't exist. Like let's just be real. It's something that is, unless you're making $500,000 a year and you're only spending 200, you can do it that way too. That's a lot harder than taking 10 years. If you give yourself 10 years and you really dedicate it, you can become anything that you want to be, in my opinion. So sorry, long-winded. What are your future goals here with this business?
Dude, I really try not to think that far ahead, because if I look back 2 years ago, there's no way I could have told you I'd be doing this. All right.
That's
so for me, I go 1 year and I break those down into quarters. We're about to hit quarter 2, right? So we got like 2 more days of Q1, about to hit quarter 2. My goal this year is to make $1 million in real estate with wholesaling and house flipping and wholesaling. That's my goal this year. Next year, I have no idea, because this is changing all the time. And being an entrepreneur, we have other businesses that we're putting this money into, right? So I have no idea what this looks like in 2 or 3 years. I just know I'm going to be a part of Rat Race. I'm going to be using my core business of wholesaling to continue to find off market properties. And I'm going to continue to invest money in personal development to become $100 million CEO.
That's it. That's what I wanted to hear. $100 million CEO. Okay. That's awesome. And the cool thing about this entire thing is that, and Ryan and I shared about this on a previous episode, is like, we are real estate investors as well, but we have found an e-commerce business, for example, that we've invested in the past 3 or 4 months, 2 of them actually. So like the diversification, some people might call it shiny object syndrome. I don't really care. It probably is. But what we found is that we've gotten to a little bit of a level here where we can start to move our money in the direction that we want to move it. Call it diversification, call it what you want, but that it's all growing our wealth. So that's kind of what you're saying, is that whatever it is, maybe you're going to buy a full business in a couple of years and it just changes you completely. And it's real passive income for you because you can hire out an entire staff. So I love the journey, and to have it, you have purchased your property, your first one, almost 10 years ago at this point, but to really have this happen for you all in 2 years, it's like, it's not to mitigate your journey, but people can do this. And so yeah. I just really want to frame that for people. It's amazing.
No, it's 100% possible, but it's only possible if you're willing to put your money where your mouth is. If I would have just did my burrs and didn't continue to grow and reach out, continue to do personal development, I might still only own 5 properties and be like, I'm doing pretty good, man. Right. I keep getting around these high level people and I'm like, dude, I haven't done shit. I'm like, I got a ways to go to get to be the person that I think I'm capable of, the best version of myself, right? I look at a dude like Ed Milet. I watched him speak not that long ago in San Diego at Scale and Escape. And I'm like, dude, what if the power, one more, right? Like the things that he talks about. And I'm like, I got so much further to go, 31 years old. I've been only doing the real estate thing for 2 years, the wholesaling thing for 1 year, a small business owner for like 4 months. Like, this is just the beginning, and I'm just going to enjoy the journey, not think with, what's the finish line, think with the end in mind, but not the finish line.
The coolest part about this whole thing, and I probably said the coolest part a bunch of times, but another cool part about this whole thing is that you continuously humble yourself by putting yourself in a room with people who are more successful than you. And by doing that, you never let your ego take over. And I think that is a massive, massive thing to put in people's heads, because you can be a big fish in a small pond and feel like you're really crushing it, which is great, by the way. If that's who you want to be, then be that person. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's a power in small but mighty as well. But if you continuously push yourself and put yourself in a room with smarter and better people, then I think it just gives you a different worldly perspective on how far you've come. So congratulations to you. I don't know what it is about the way you talk, but I have no doubt that you'll get to wherever you're looking to go to. So thank you for sharing. And I think we've made it to the second to last segment of the show, which is the core 4. We'll get to know you a little bit more personally here, kind of what makes you tick, and ask them, some personal questions. So question 1 is, what is your favorite business or investing book, and or real estate investing book? And what would you share with other people? Like, what is your favorite one, maybe back when you started or now? Either one.
It's funny, dude, is I haven't even read all the books that everybody says to read. I purposely don't read them so that they're not my story. Oh, I read this book and it changed my life. But one of my favorite books that I've read that I recommend to people is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Business book, right? It's a story of Nike. It's a badass book. Just a lot about betting on yourself, put your money where your mouth is. And that's a lot of how I've adopted in my story. I haven't read those. I've never even read Rich Dad Poor Dad, dude. Like, that's not even on my radar. I purposely don't read it so I can rub people the wrong way when they, you haven't read that? I like the reaction I get out of folks. So I purposely probably never going to read that book, but I really like Shoe Dog, man. That was a really good book for me.
Yeah, I read Shoe Dog. I thought it was amazing. I mean, just the story of perseverance and just the fight of Phil Knight. For people who don't know, that's the story of Phil Knight, the creator and founder of Nike, and kind of how he navigated years and years of rejection and to build maybe the biggest sports apparel, the best sports apparel brand in the world. Yeah. So you're wearing it right now. And I definitely have it on my body somewhere. I know I do. So Love that. That's a great recommendation. I don't know if anybody's mentioned that book on our podcast.
They don't, man. No one ever met. Everyone just kind of talks about the same ones. Relentless, Think and Grow Rich. Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I'm like, dude, Shoe Dog's great.
Yeah, it's more of a frame, just business in general. So that's
and it's a fun read too. It's a fun read. It's a real story.
It's a very cool story. Exactly. Okay, cool. Question number 2. Let's say somebody gave you 50 grand, which may not be a lot to you now. Maybe it is. I don't know, but I'm sure you could, if somebody gave it to you, you wouldn't complain. $50,000 today, not taxed. What would you do with the money? How would you allocate it? What's something that you're looking at that you could spend that money on or invest?
Yeah, a lot you can do with 50 grand. My biggest metric that I track right now is cash on cash return. So I look at what's the way I can make the most money back from this. And right now, I would probably do a hotel, like a small hotel somewhere. I'd buy a house for like 50 grand and sell it for 80 or something like that.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah, real simple.
That's a quick way to make a 50, 60, 70% cash on cash return with that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. That's what's important to me. Or I buy a rental, because we get things like 50, 60, 70% off sometimes. I'm buying a house in like 2 weeks. We're buying it for 20 grand. It's worth 70,000. We can rent it for $1,000. So like cash on cash return, equity is there. Is it sexy? It's 20 grand. Like, no, but guess what? My cash on cash return is going to be amazing.
So that's important to know. There's people that are out there that are saying there's no deals to be found. There's no deals to be found. I think that's because you're not talking to the people that are finding the deals. And that is because
they're not wholesalers. No, you ain't got no deals. Everybody wants to be my friend because I got all the deals. I'm like, hey man, you got a deal for me? I'm like, cool.
Yeah, well, join the mastermind and maybe then and who knows? Then who knows what can come of it? Look what happened to you, Naaman. It. That's exactly how it happened. So, okay, great. Question number 3. What has been your biggest mistake that you've made in your investing journey and how have you learned from it?
I started doing real estate at a really good time. So all my mistakes were solved by just kind of hanging on the properties. We bought some stuff bad. The market kept going up. So I really haven't fucked anything up yet. I say my biggest mistake was I was trying to buy this 18 unit property. I knew nothing about it. And I paid for an inspection. I bought the lead and we couldn't get clear title. And I just, the velocity of money, I stopped wasting time thinking about that deal. I didn't give it any more bandwidth. And I just let it go. People were like, man, you already put a couple $1,000s into this, like it's not worth my time. It's not worth the deals I'm going to miss out on. So my lesson there for people like that are almost about to make a mistake. It's okay to lose a little money, to give up things that are going to take up too much of your time, too much of your bandwidth. You don't want to go to sleep thinking about these, waking up thinking about them. You cannot put a price on peace of mind. So just, move on. The velocity of money will continue to work for you. And, those mistakes will forgive themselves over time.
That is an awesome sentiment there. I think that you cannot be afraid to lose money in this business because you're going to. It is going to happen. And the more that you can not remove the fear, but just kind of run through it of losing money, the easier it will be when it does inevitably happen, because it's happened to anybody who's a real estate investor, and it's going to happen to real estate investors for a long time. So I think that's a good example of a mistake. But to go off your point, we are living in a time that I did not invest in through the 2008 recession. We've had people on that have, right? So it's for us, you're right. It is convenient. Yeah. It's convenient and it's easy to make money in this time in real estate investing. But the longer that you hold onto these properties through anything, the more forgiving that this business is. So I think that's a really good point there. Thanks for.
Dude, and don't be scared, man. People are scared all the time. I was nervous my first deal, but I was also living in another country, guys. So you guys don't be scared to buy a house in the neighborhood you live in. Make it happen, dude. Pull the trigger, learn the lesson. Just get it going, dude. I was fortunate enough to start this thing by investing out of the country, out of the state, whatever. So it worked out really well for me. I don't have any fear of buying anything that I haven't seen. I would encourage people to do some due diligence, but don't get caught up on you haven't seen the property. Send somebody out there, trust an expert, and just do a deal, man. Don't don't get called on the sideline because you're a little bit worried and scared. You gotta.
Yeah, I know people personally and that have talked to me about buying real estate investing, and they've been talking about it since 2016, and the amount that they could have gained in personal net worth, equity, and all of that if they have pulled the trigger on 1 or 2 properties in 2016 or 2017. It's hard to watch, but that's why we have this podcast. That's why we bring on people like you to look. All these people, we're on episode 102 right now, Naaman. I mean, 102 people have. It's not just real estate, but 102 people have been investors and have done this. If somebody who looks like me is listening to the podcast, somebody who looks like you, they can relate to you. I think it just really helps people to pull the trigger more often. So I love it. Thank you for that. Question number 4, a little bit more philosophical here. I think you talked about it a little bit with $100 million CEO, but what do you want your legacy to be, Naaman? What do you like? This is not easy, what you're doing. What gets you up out of bed every day? And what do you want to kind of leave? I don't want to be leave this planet with, but what do you do this all for?
Legacy.
Maybe you don't have one, but what do you do it all for is my question.
No, legacy. That's what I'm doing it for, right? Legacy, dude. I want to be a big fucking deal one day. And it starts by putting the work in and day out. What gets me out of bed right now is PT at 6:00 in the morning.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know anything about that. So that's,
but dude, I like working out. And so, it's not that just PT is going to be the reason I get up. I read a book, 24 Ways to Make Yourself a Millionaire Before 30. I think it was, I forget my man's name. But he's all about getting up early, not wasting that time. And I try to get up as early as I can. I get stuff done between 5 and 8. And, reading my book then, get my exercise in then, doing everything that sucks and it's hard before 8:00, man, your day will be a breeze, right? So part of what I want to leave here with is, just becoming a big deal, helping as many people as possible, showing people as possible to make this money, especially part-time, not getting stuck. I don't know why. I just have this big thing of I want to help everybody out. That's
great. Yeah. When you get to a certain point, helping other people becomes a major reward. And when I said I didn't know anything about waking up at 6 a.m. and doing PT, I will say, I'm sure you've heard of 75 Hard. I'm on day 50 right now. And this isn't about working out or anything necessarily, but what it has taught me is the discipline I used to work out 3 or 4 days a week, and that was what I thought I did. That was what I did. I just worked out. And now that I'm doing it every day, I'm like, oh wait, I can completely change my mindset and completely change my body and who I am. So I take that aspect of, I can change this part about me, and why could I not become whoever else I want to be, this investor or a business owner. So doing something like that, for you, and doing the work, I just don't happen to do it at 5 or 6 a.m. But either way, getting up and changing your body and changing your mindset can change your life drastically. So that's an awesome point there. And working out, I think, is paramount to building wealth, I think. And it looks like you think that as well, or at least it's a big part of your life. So
I'm doing 365 medium. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, just work out every single day and don't even.
Hey, I'm just gonna get it. I like to drink still, so I'm not doing 75 days of no drink. I still I'm very much normal. I'm not some robot dude. Totally. I like to go have drinks with my wife. I like to eat tacos at Mexican restaurants. That's why I work out, because I like to have fun. And part of what I want to do too with my life is travel a bunch. I want to live abroad. I want to work from abroad part-time. Maybe in Colombia or something like that, and then live in Texas the other half part of the year. So I want to be able to give myself the opportunity. There's 2 things I always tell people that are young. If you want to really try to make it in life and have a good life experience stuff, learn sales and travel. Those 2 things will get you so much further and give you so much insight on the world.
Well, I think we've made it to the last drop. And maybe you answered that question just then, but the question is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give, your younger self? Let's say you went back to your 20-year-old Naaman. What would you tell him, and why?
I still read books, but not nearly as much as I'd like to. But when I was younger, I cranked them out, dude.
Oh, really? Normally the opposite. Normally people don't read when they're young and then they start when they're older. So that's interesting.
Dude, it was crazy. I was like one of those people that rode the bus home when I used to live in Georgia. We had like an hour commute. I'd knock out a book like in 2 days. So
Wow.
yeah, I read a bunch, get all the knowledge, learn sales, travel as much as possible. You can always make more money, even when it doesn't seem like you can. You cannot get your time back. The experiences are going to matter a lot more. Create as many of them as possible. I know it sounds like that's like a cliche thing a lot of people say, but like I believe in it, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to create as many experiences as possible and just make as much money as I can.
Wonderful, man. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to get to know you and your story. If people want to learn more about you, they want to get in touch, they want to maybe network, reach out, maybe join your mastermind, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, Instagram is usually the best. That's my business card at this point. At Naaman Taylor Investor. Just follow me there. Shoot me a DM. I answer everything still. I'm not overwhelmed yet. We just got over 10,000 followers, but
Yes, sir. I saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not at the point where all 10,000 people are hitting me up all the time. So it's all good. Not on that level yet. So I answer all the DMs and stuff. So just hit me up. The micro tribes on Tuesdays at 6 Central. We have different people that come on every week and we work on sales training every other week. And that's where I'm most active at. So hit me up.
Love it. Thank you, man. This has been a pleasure just to get to know you, like I said. And if you have an extra $100 a month, which every single person listening to this podcast should have an extra $100 a month. If you don't, find it and maybe join the micro tribe because it sounds like it's 1,000,000 times worth it.
Thanks for tuning in this week. If you enjoyed the show and like what you heard, please subscribe, share with friends, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The more ratings we get, the more eyes we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you all with high-quality guests. It's simple. Open your podcast app, type in our podcast name, The Weekly Juice, click on reviews, and let us know what you think. Thanks so much, and see you next week.